Welcome back to the channel, and today we're looking at the brand new Vosteed Hedgehog. These are actually available right now. I will have links to these down in the description if you're interested in one of these. This is a smaller EDC knife at 7.11 inches long with a 2.99 inch modified sheep's foot blade of S35VN steel with a Rockwell hardness of 60 to 62 HRC. Awesome job. This is going to be an excellent utility blade shape, great for doing fine precision work with that tip. And being that you have a very slight belly, you can do some cutting on a flat cutting surface. And of course, the in-hand cuts are going to be very easy, and you're going to have full power from heel to tip, being that it's almost a straight edge. This blade has a two-tone finish with satin on the flats, blasted stonewash finish on your primary grind, your swedges, your fullers, and your spine of this knife. We have dual thumb studs. We'll talk about that later. We have some jimping up top. It is wide space jimping. However, it does offer a good bit of traction. I do think they could have added a jimp or two right before it ramps up right here, and it would have been a little bit better if they would have went with fine cut jimping. It would have gripped you a little bit better, but it's not something I really worry about in my folders. You have a full forward finger choil that doubles as a sharpening choil, so you can have tons of sharpening life before you have to worry about it widening in the back right here. And being that you have that forward finger choil, it should fit your large, extra large hands just fine. So really good little big knife. I can go up in that forward choil if I want to, but if you have fat sausage fingers, you might have to come back here. They put some jimping up there, and it's nice and comfortable, but you're just a little bit further away from that edge. This knife has a flat grind that comes down to around 20 thousandths behind the edge. Let's see how it performs. Like always, this knife came very, very sharp out of box. Vosteed does a great job of sharpening their knives. And being this has got almost a straight edge, it's going to really excel at this type of stuff. You will want to keep your finger in that forward finger choil area so you don't get hung up in it. Or, you're pretty far away from that edge if you don't do that. Just going to show another place where it's going to excel at doing your fine precision work. Just showing how I could cut this out fairly easily. Do some zigzag cuts. It's going to excel at that kind of stuff because you have that very low tip, and it's a fairly thin tip as well. So it's going to be really, really good at the detail work, no doubt about it. And now we're going to test the ergos on this piece of pines and see how that edge wants to bite. If a knife isn't sharp, it's not going to want to make your fine curls that easily. It's going to skate off the wood pretty much. Once again, I'm in that forward finger choil area, kind of back a little bit, so I'm not too close to that edge, but close enough to where I can really control what I'm doing. Being that the edge is straight, I'm able to get almost pretty much full power from heel to tip, and it was fairly comfortable too. Didn't feel anything poking or prodding me. I did decide to lift it up on the block, mainly because the belly is just very, very slight. And if I were to try to do this on a flat cutting surface without the block, I wouldn't have had a whole lot of that cutting edge coming in contact with the cutting board. And I already have blisters on my fingers. So this is the way I did it. The edge was not only sharp, it did have a good bit of bite. It's always a pleasure to do this test with the Vosteed knives because they come with a nice toothy edge that's nice and sharp. And that type of edge is good for all the stuff that I do in my testing, because when you have that toothiness, it wants to grab onto those fibrous materials a lot easier rather than a mere polished edge that it's super sharp but it doesn't want to grab anything. So that's just my favorite type of edge. Of course, right after I finish this, I'm going to probably lower the edge on this just because I like a thinner edge than most production knives come with. And yeah, so far so good. This one is doing well. We get through 140 cuts before I run out of this piece that I cut for this test, and it could have done more than that. It felt good while doing it. Didn't really feel like it was slowing down much at the end. And yeah, not bad at all. Let's hope that edge is still pretty good after all this. And you know, they rock well there, S35 from 60 to 62. That's a-okay to me. And like I said, I've sharpened a lot of their knives after these tests, and you can tell that they do a nice proper heat treat on their steels because they deburr really easily. They come up really sharp, and it's always just a pleasure to sharpen any of the Vosteed knives. So this one, absolutely love it. It's been in my pocket ever since I got it. Another place where it's going to shine, more of those drag cuts. And yeah, that edge is nice and crisp. See, I'm doing that pointer finger grip. That doesn't require a whole lot of downward force. Now, if you're going to do that corner cardboard, be careful to where that tip is landing into the cutting board, because you don't want to snap your tip off. But as you can see here, we still have good bite to that edge in this 10-ounce denim. And yeah, excellent job. Now let's take a look at the deployment and the action of this knife. And if you like fidgety knives, this thing is a fidget king. You have a back flipper that is probably the easiest flipper design to flip on a knife. I hand this to my wife and my daughter. Both of them didn't have to think about it, didn't have to ask me. You got some nice jimping there. All you do is pull it back and it comes rocketing out. It's riding on ceramic ball bearings with a nice crisp break on the detent. You can also thumb flick those thumb studs rather easily, and you can reverse flick off those fullers if you'd like. You can also reverse flick off those thumb studs. You can deploy the knife with the top liner lock button. Whatever you choose, very easy to manipulate. You can slow roll it, left-handed, no problem. Let's take a look at the handle area. We have black canvas micarta on here. It's nice and fuzzy right there, nice and grippy, especially being that you have like a faded in frag pattern on the bottom half right here. I think it looks nice. It's nice and grippy. It's comfortable. There's a chamfer going all the way around. There's no sharp spots where you don't want them to be, and it's nice and softened around those edges. You do have a large lanyard hole for the lanyard people out there. I think it would have been great to put posts just like that back here so you wouldn't have to have that hole. You do have a reversible tip-up deep carry pocket clip that is inset into the micarta along with those screws. Functions outstanding, good spring to it, nice ramp, and sits pretty much all the way into the pocket. All you have this little spot sticking up. And on the side that you're not using, there is a filler tab. Your hardware, you have Torx T8 for the pivot. Unfortunately, they went with T6 for the body screws and the clip screws. I really wish they would use T8 throughout. T8s don't strip out as much as T6 do, and you wouldn't have to swap your drivers. We have inset stainless steel liners that have been heavily skeletonized, flowed through construction, as you can see there. Easy to blow out with some compressed air, wipe out with a Q-tip or something like that. You have one hourglass standoff in the back, and then you have a post right there for some added rigidity. Bringing your weight to 107.7 grams or 3.79 ounces. Like I said earlier, this is a top liner lock, basically a button compression lock. They call it a top liner lock because that's what a compression lock is pretty much. The liner lock spring goes into a channel into the blade right there, and it gets wedged in between that channel and that stop pin, causing it to have a pretty solid lockup. And then you have the button to maneuver it, so it keeps your fingers out of the way of the blade path, and it's nice and comfortable to disengage that lock. It's a fairly strong lock, like I said earlier. I haven't had any issues with any of mine. First time we saw that lock was on the Vosteed RS Chaos, and I really hope we start seeing this more often. And we're also seeing it on one of my favorites from them, the Vosteed Raccoon top liner lock. You can see there, this one's done just a little bit different, but stupid smooth. And yeah, I've always loved the Raccoon. This one and the crossbar lock Raccoon are my favorites by far. So needless to say, when it comes to up and down, side to side, this thing is rock solid. Quick size comparison with the Ontario Rat 1 and 2, very similar to the Rat 2. Very similar in size to the brand new Vosteed Corgi Sheep's Foot and the Vosteed Morale. Also similar to the QSP Penguin and the Civivi Elementum. And lastly, it's just a little bit smaller than the Hogue Deca, and it's a hair longer than the Hogue Ritter Mini RSK. Now for my nitpicks and complaints, I think fine cut jimping and then extended a little bit further would have been even better than it already is. Plus, even though I like the look of this two-tone blade, I would have much preferred just a full raw stone wash rather than a blasted finish anywhere on my knife, just because those finishes tend to rust a little bit easier here in the South. Also, I would love to see T8 hardware throughout. That would be excellent. But other than that, I absolutely love this knife. My wife and I and some friends went on a short vacation this weekend to a concert, and I carried this with me almost every day since I've gotten this knife, and it came with me there, and I carried it there as well. It carries well. It's a fun knife. It performs well, comfortable. Yeah. What else can you ask for here? And these come in at $129. Don't think that's out of line for its performance and the locking system, and overall I think it's a great knife. So like I said earlier, if you're interested in one of these, I will have it linked down below. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave those down below. I hope everybody's having an absolute amazing day. I will see y'all on the next one. Hey!